Hey guys, thanks for watching. So today I've got a 10-mark answer that I'm going to walk you through. Again, this is a model answer. I actually wrote this one this morning, so it's nice and fresh in my mind. It's an applied ethics one, year one content. But this is a slightly different form of wording that you do sometimes get with these 10 markers, and it's examine why. Now, when you say examine why, it's not massively going to change the content that you use to answer the question, but it is a good idea to just make sure that that word why is reflected in the answer that you give to show that you've really engaged with that question and not just a question that's a bit like it. So the way I do this is by starting off my paragraphs with one reason why, another reason why, and so on, because then you can prove that you're answering the question that's set. So here we go. One reason why this may happen is because not all situations where voluntary euthanasia may be considered are the same. If a person expresses a clear wish to die, they're of sound mind, and their medical condition is untreatable to the extent that they're in great pain, then this might be a reasonable situation in which a user of situation ethics would say that euthanasia is justified. However, if the situation were different, then this may change. For instance, if someone was terminally ill and in pain but was unsure about what they wanted and were potentially vulnerable into being coerced by family into seeking voluntary euthanasia, a user of situation ethics may argue that this is not agapeic because there are bad intentions involved. All right, so the theme of this paragraph is to show that I understand that when we're talking about situation ethics, not all situations are the same. Not all instances of voluntary euthanasia are the same. Voluntary euthanasia isn't as simple as just somebody wants to die, so you either let them die or you don't. It depends why they want to die. It depends what's going on in their individual set of circumstances, because all of that makes a difference to how situation ethics plays out. So that's what I've made that first paragraph about. Okay. Paragraph 2, here we go. Another reason for this is because unlike other ethical theories which have clear rules to follow, this does not happen in situation ethics. Fletcher said only one thing is intrinsically good, namely love, nothing else at all, which means that actions such as killing someone or helping them to die are not intrinsically wrong in themselves. They are made right or wrong according to whether love is best served. So what I've done here is I've made a little comparison with different ethical theories. And you'll notice I'm not really talking about other ethical theories because that's not the essay, but I'm just pointing out that there aren't really a lot of rules in situation ethics. So you haven't got a rule saying do not kill. And the fact that you haven't got that rule opens up different possibilities, and that leads to different decisions. This means, so picking it up in the middle of the paragraph, this means that situationists have to make decisions themselves, making an agapeic calculation as to what is the best thing to do. This is very different from theories such as natural moral law, which are deontological or rule-based. In situation ethics, the moral agent has to make a judgment about what's the most loving thing to do, and because everyone's perspective is slightly different, these judgments are bound to vary sometimes. So I've set up this idea that you don't have rules, so you have to make the decision yourself based on your own judgments. And because of that, because we're not following a very, very clear restrictive framework, you get different results. People make different decisions because they've got different perspectives. Now, I went through this essay with one of my classes and they felt like, well, isn't that just obvious? Yeah, it's obvious, but because it's obvious, it belongs in the essay. Don't feel like you've got to overthink these. If there's a super obvious point to make, it's fine to make it. All right, final paragraph. Finally, and following on from this, another reason for different decisions is that the concept of agape is open to interpretation. Fletcher believed that following the example of Jesus would help Christians decide what to do in difficult moral situations, but because we do not have an example of Jesus engaging with an assisted death, people have to interpret the concept of agape for themselves. Agape is supposed to be unconditional, selfless Christian love, but to one person this might mean caring for a sick person until the natural end of their life, whereas to another it might mean respecting a dying person's wishes and assisting them in ending their life through voluntary euthanasia. Either interpretation could be seen as reasonable, and therefore this is why there may be different outcomes. And that's it. I think that's all you need for that essay, because you've got 3 paragraphs making 3 different points. The points do overlap, but they're different enough that they all belong in the essay. What I've done in paragraph 3 is I've pointed out that situation ethics is largely about what would Jesus do. Jesus is your kind of role model for what is loving. But Jesus doesn't say anything about voluntary euthanasia. So we don't have a direct example. So we have to interpret. And because we have to interpret, people will do that differently. So agape for one person, the most loving thing to do for a sick person might be to care for them till the bitter end. Another person's reading of agape might be that you respect the person's wishes and you let them have voluntary euthanasia. Neither one is wrong. They're just different. And they're different because situation ethics has got that flexibility. Okay, so 400 odd words, 3 paragraphs. That's plenty for that. I think that would get level 5. I think there's enough in there to hit those levels. There's examples, there's a good structure, and most importantly of all, I've made it about examine why. So I'm not just saying situation ethics will reach different decisions. Yeah, we know that, but I've said why they reach different decisions. And that's how you make that a really good essay. Okay, thanks very much. I've got a little bit of free time now, study leave started, so I am open to taking requests. I won't be able to do them all, but I'll do what I can. Please subscribe, please like these videos if they're working for you, and I'll talk to you soon.